Yeah, it was
nice. That was a fun one.
Hour of just talking about a poker roguelike.
That's awesome. That's fun. I love when we do some of these deeper dive ones. It's really fun when we like all have a game. I feel like I kept thinking, I was like, man, I'm talking over, like, I didn't let Randall get in there enough, man.
Oh, that's fine. I got my words in. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I've probably played more than you, Kevin, but I don't know. I'm just vibing with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got a lot to say besides it's real good.
I'm definitely enjoying it too. Yeah. Again, I know I have like some nitpicks where I'm just like, this is annoying, this is whatever, but like I'm definitely pretty sucked in. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games. And this week, I feel like we're going to be pursuing a little poker tonight. John,
there it is.
John kind of got us rolling here with the latest like indie sensation game, I guess, if you want to call it that. I feel like it just kind of came out of nowhere. I saw people talking about it, and then like soon after I saw somebody mention it online somewhere, John's like, "Hey, I'm watching the Balatro trailer, and here we go. Oh, I bought it." And then I'm like, "All right, now I'm getting that little FOMO feeling. It's only $15. Like if it would have been at that $20 price tag, I might not have sprung for it. But
yeah,
I was like 15 switched. I can see myself getting hooked on this game." And John's already like, "Well, I'm not going to tip the hand." John seemed like he was pretty into it, but yeah, why don't we let John take the lead here?
Yeah. So I started seeing people post about it on co-host or in Discord and on Instagram, and like just, people like kind of instantly bemoaning like when their friends would be claimed by this game. It's like, oh, nope, another one of my friends, all they post about is Balatro. And it's like, for me, like a short period of time, I was like, all right, I'm gonna cool it on this. I'm not gonna dive into the game that everybody is playing right now. It's the new hotness. Like there's a ton of those that come and go like every single week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually saw some like gameplay footage of it that I instantly knew that it was going to be a game that I would really love. So much so that I stopped watching the video, being like, nope, I don't want any of this gameplay spoiled for me. Like I want to see the unlocks of this game. And if you haven't heard of this game, it is a poker roguelike. And it's a deck building game where you play hands of poker to get to a score in order to advance from one blind, which is what a round is called. You have, I'm going to mix up all of the terminology.
I'm sure we're going to mix up all these terms. Yeah, like I'm like vaguely familiar with poker.
I have no poker familiarity at all, so I'm throwing that on the front side too, so I will be no help here.
Interesting. Yeah. Like literally none at all.
I mean, like just culturally, but have I played poker, with people at a poker table? No, I have not done that.
What about like the different hands and stuff like that? Are you like vaguely familiar with like the full house and
vaguely, but like
flush? Because
I only now do I know full house is like 2 of one kind and 3 of another kind, right? I could not have told you that before I played Balatro. I just knew it was a good hand. Yeah.
Wow. Because I feel like if you don't know that going in, there's like already kind of a lot to learn in this game. Like I was a little bit the first run playing, I was like, man, they are just throwing another thing at you. And then thankfully at the second run, it was like, okay, training wheels are off. I'm just pretty much in the game now. So I was like a little bit like, oh man, this might be a little too much to chew on here. But they took them off just in time where I was like, okay, perfect. That's like just enough to take in all at once.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because like I played a ton of card games growing up. Like I was in Boy Scouts, and it was before like handheld, we could like reliably bring handheld video games to stuff. So it was just a ton of like teen boys learning every card game imaginable. Like,
makes sense.
And you would always get your like preferred one, but like Texas Hold'em was a pretty standard one that we would constantly be playing. So like I had familiarity with like poker, but I'm really not a gambler. I don't really go to, I don't like going to casinos.
Yeah.
And so like I've never really played anything outside of like group of friends, and it never really appealed to me. Like there've been poker games before that I, have played or tried, and it's just like I hate like having a restriction based on, oh, you need to like get money and gamble money in order to like advance in this game or something. You have a pot, and like the framework of a roguelike I think works so well for using this and having it like, oh, when you don't get the score that you want, it's just starting all over again. So you are still using the probability mechanics of poker, which are really good. Like just really well fleshed out in terms of like raw probability of 13 cards in a deck, or 13 cards per suit, and there are 4 suits, and like the hands that you hold like have actual point values. I don't think it's doing all of the like suit point values that you could do. I think that it's just a straight number where a 4 is 4, and like you're not prioritizing, you're not getting a special bonus for playing a spade or a diamond. It's all
unless it's all of that same suit, right? That's the only extent that comes into play.
But like
or the jokers.
I think that starting with the like poker probability system and the ranking of those hands, where a high card is the lowest, and a royal flush is the straight flush. Royal flush? Ooh.
No, royal flush is like the bet. Yeah, having like 10 to ace of all one suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is like the highest scoring because it's also the hardest
hand you could get.
It's the lowest probability. And then the core conceit of this game is that it has jokers, and the jokers act as power-ups, and it also has tarot cards which act as modifiers, and uses
planet cards that upgrade like your hands to like, because there's almost like a point system for like a base point system for each hand, or each, like a pair is like has a certain base score that you get automatically, and then the cards that you play for that hand then get added to that, and then get added to your chips and or multiplier based on the cards and joker you have. It's kind of hard to explain, or at least it's a lot going on. And then the jokers will add either more chips, more multipliers, make things easier for you to come up with certain hands, or like just completely alter the game. And there's so many of them. I think
there's 150
or something.
It's so cool.
Gotta catch them all.
Oh, it's so good. And then
the jokers are fantastic.
Like once you start using the tarot cards and like actually start manipulating the amount of cards in your deck, then it really starts messing with the probability.
Because the tarot cards can do anything from enhancing. Like changing. You can change their suit sometimes. Like it'll be changed any 3 cards in your hand to hearts or something like that, and you're like, hey, now this went from just a regular straight to a straight flush or something like that. Because now I got them all in sequence in the suit.
That roguelike deck building where it's like, well, I have a joker that like gives me a multiplier for every spade that I have in my deck, or like in the played card. So I'm going to convert as many cards into spades as I can. Or I've got a joker that gives me a bonus anytime I play a 10 and a 4. So I'm going to just start like adding additional 10s and 4s to my deck. And it's such a great way of using the roguelike format of,
gambling format too. Like they're just using like the kind of risk reward gambling kind of idea, and like without having to throw real money on the line. And I think that's like an interesting twist, but that makes it work because you're like, it's just easier to be like, I'm just gonna, maybe I'll get those cards, and then because every time I lose in this game, I lose by like freaking $30 or something, 30 chips. Like I barely lose, and it just pisses me off. So, but that good kind of piss you off. Like, I guess I'm playing another run.
Do it again. Yeah, I got a joker the last time that was one like almost on a meta level where it's like, this joker is a rare joker that if you sell other joker cards, the multiplier number of this joker goes up.
I love it.
Yeah, there's like 2 to 3 layers to some of these cards, not just the jokers, but I mean your regular cards could be like a glass card
Yes.
that
Like
is
enchanted.
multiplies your points
Yes.
by, I don't know if it's 1.5 or 2 or whatever it is, but then like also has a 1 of 4 25% chance of being destroyed when it gets played.
Yes. Or
And
keep
it's
it in
just
your
like-
hand for a multiplier. Don't play it. It stays in your hand. And
Or if this if this card's in your hand at the end of a run, you get a free planet card, or you get
money.
free gold at the end of the run. Because then you also, and that's where it starts to get a little bit, because you can have 5 jokers in your by default. You can have 5 jokers in your hand or whatever, or in your
play
run
field
at a time. Yeah. And then 2, I think, tarot cards at a time.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you can like buy a tarot pack, like in between your runs, like you play 3 rounds. And then if you beat like the boss battle or whatever you will, which usually has like a different kind of like twist thrown into the gameplay on every different boss battle. But then you get to buy either new Joker cards, new planet cards, new packs of cards that you pick from. And like it starts getting kind of like, at least for me, I get kind of bogged down because I'm like, man, I'm already loaded up. I have a pretty good setup here, but I'm like, I have some money and there's some packs here. Maybe there's some better stuff. Obviously, you can just buy a pack. The nice thing is you can just skip it. You don't have to like say, if you open a pack and go, oh, there's nothing in here better than what I have, you can skip it. And the only thing you lose is the money, I guess. But like, I am running into that, like, man, there's so many things. Like, I already have a good setup, but I'm like tempted to tweak it, but I don't want to waste my money. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot to.
Oh, I've basically never skipped.
I haven't skipped yet either.
A pack like anytime
many times.
Oh, I think that's not the way to go. I think you need to, unless it's like a buffoon pack which is full of jokers. I've skipped on those. But like anytime,
that's what I'm talking about. There's like those kind of cards,
not the regular
like already loaded
ones.
up on Joker, or like at the top. Sometimes they'll just be like a free Joker.
Yeah,
if there's like a pack of cards where you're just adding a card to my deck, I'm pretty much gonna take it.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were saying. It's like I open up a pack of card and it doesn't have any good cards. It's like no, every card is a good card eventually.
Plays into one strategy or another, even if they're all regular cards, which happened to me one time. Like, oh, that's not fun. There's not even one enchanted thing here. What the heck?
Yeah. But then you start going in. Then you can always open up. I love it. They give you the ability to count cards, and like you can pull up using the left trigger. I think what the
left
remaining...
trigger or the right trigger. Actually, I just discovered this on my last run because it pulls it up in two different views. Like right trigger pulls it up in like a visual where you can see every card, and then the other one's more of like a spreadsheet.
The visual one.
The left one is
really like
just
both,
showing you
actually.
like what cards are left in like your pulling, whereas like right trigger shows like the breakdown of every card, every suit, it shows you the visual representation of how many multipliers or like other things that you've put on those cards. And like the left one is like more useful for when you're like trying to figure out here? Is like, all right,
I can't be bothered with that. I can't card count, man.
Oh no, that's the thing. Like this, I feel myself getting better at poker by playing this game. Because
which is interesting because it's like poker based, but there's so much, obviously, as we've talked about here, there's so many wrinkles thrown into the mix that it's obviously not anything really like poker at a point, but it's like, so it is like you're definitely like learning the ropes and like but
two pair is the most common card that, or like hand that you can pull. So like I know that when I'm looking at the thing is like, well, I have I'm pretty likely to get at least a 2 pair out of this, but I'm like, oh, there's only 3 7s left and there are 3 7s left and I need one. I bet I can get one if I discard only like 2 cards. Like you're going out on a limb and that's the gambling I like, is like just trying to like overextend myself and see if I can do it on one more pull. Another risk reward equation.
My one, or I guess I have a few like small gripes. I'm not, I can nitpick any game, a bunch of times. But like my one thing is like the math starts getting so like on my last run that I played, or one of my last runs, I can't remember which one. I had this Joker that I had a bunch of different Jokers, but one of them was like literally the multiplier was just like a random number each time. Like no matter what, it was just this like kind of weird, like almost
misprint.
like missing number looking effect. Which that's number. One thing too. That's like I do wish like it'd probably be. even though I actually do think I prefer the way it plays on a gamepad, even if like I'm picturing it would just be a little tedious to move the mouse around so much or use touch controls or whatever. Even though it can be tedious to move the controls around, but it would be nice to just like hover over those Joker cards, because it can be like some of the visuals you're like, wait, what does that Joker do again? Like it doesn't necessarily always be a telegraph like, oh, here's a big diamond, oh, this one upgrades, you get a multiplier with diamonds. Like you got to kind of really like I at least have to reread the cards a lot to be like, what does this one do again?
Are you only using touch controls?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I tested them for like a quick second, but I was like, the cards are just too small on the Switch touchscreen. They work, but I was like, I'm just using the gamepad, which works great. But
So you're also playing handheld, right?
Handheld mostly. I played my last 2 runs before we jumped on here on my TV just to like, I don't know, get the TV experience, which was kind of nice. I didn't even notice that there was like as much screen shake going on.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a little tactile feedback on my handheld, but playing it on TV, it felt pretty nice. I did actually dial that CRT effect all the way down though.
I turned that off. It was nice, but yeah, it does make like the distinguish between like diamonds and hearts.
Diamonds and
dude,
I was having that same issue. Yeah, the reds just kind of bled into the lines a little bit. It's a cool effect. And then at least on Switch, I was getting like a little like it might have been part of the CRT effect, but it was like getting this like green glitch line like across my screen once in a while, and I was like, huh. That's weird. When I turned it off, it stopped happening. So I was like, I'm just going to leave it off. And yeah, a little easier to read too.
Yep.
But the text can be a little bit small too.
Yeah, a little bit.
At times playing handheld, you like really got to like lean in there to the screen.
There's so much information on the screen at any given
and
time.
especially in that first run when you play, like, and you're like telling, like the Joker keeps popping you up and teaching you what every new thing does. But like once you get the hang of the buttons, like I still do like every now and then, like I did like discard a card on accident, or like you hit the wrong button and you're just like, God. Or like I actually had I think it was a tarot card that like it said rank up 2 cards, and I was like, what does rank up mean? And in my head I was like, oh, it's just gonna level up this card, and then I picked like an ace and something else, and then it turned an ace into a 2, and I was like, no, and it ruined my run. I lost on like the next hand or 2. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Part of me was like, I should just look up what happens when you rank up an ace, but the other part of me was like, but I gotta know. I gotta know on my own.
Roguelike, that's part of that roguelike fun where you're just like, I don't know, I gotta learn how this game works. I do love like the games that first got me hooked on roguelikes, like Downwell and Enter the Gungeon and stuff like that. That was kind of part of the fun. Like, what happens if you shoot the shopkeeper, or what happens if you do the, that's kind of part of the fun. So I do like that with this game as well. And I do love, this is the first game in a while that like a lot of times when I'll like we were just talking about, I think before we jumped on, maybe after we started, I can't remember now, but like this is the first game that like I just kind of bought and started playing right away, and I think we all pretty much did that. Like usually I'll get a game and it'll sit and collect dust, whether it's digital or physical dust for a little bit of while, and before I get around to playing it. And this one, it was just like play a quick run or 2. Like the music, while I do really like it, it's like, okay, I already got the vibe of the game. Like I can just throw a podcast on in the background and just like enjoy doing something else while I'm playing this game right away. And I just like love that about it. And a lot of times, I feel like I do wait because like I'm always doing something else or working on editing the podcast, and I can't necessarily like do that while I'm this. I could maybe like I could play a hand of this in between editing chunks. I used to play some Slay the Spire while I edited the podcast. So who knows?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I know I mentioned that I had some gripes, and I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones were, and because I didn't finish the thought I had. But the main one is like I think the math just starts getting like so. You can't count on it at times based on what your cards are, which I know that's obviously part of the gambling side of things, but like it starts getting, as you get deeper into a run, I'm just kind of like, I think this hand will give me enough points to beat this round. And then I'm like, fuck, it's not quite enough. And like, if it were actual money and chips on the line, like theoretically you could like do the math in your head and figure it out. And theoretically you could do that in this game, but you'd really have to slow down the pace a little bit.
I do think a thing that I've kind of sussed out from playing like a bunch of runs is that when you build your deck, you pretty much build it towards either 1 or 2 hands maximum, and that you're basically just trying to set up those hands to trigger over and over again. Like the first run I won was one that I had built around 2 pair. And like it was basically the only hand that I was leveling up. There's a power up that you can get where the most played hand will be guaranteed a planet pull from like a
Cost
celestial
$10.
pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so,
and then again,
it's
those
so
planet
worth
cards
it.
like just upgrade like your base for that. So I'm assuming you would try to lean into that 2-pair hand every time
it was
and
like
level up.
the anytime I played a 2-pair without any multipliers, it was like 200 chips times something. Like that was you really get to the point where you can't bank on a bad hand to pull you through, and like that that's when you start like overextending yourself as like, I built this for like only straights, and like I have there's no way I'm going to get a straight before like I'm playing all my hands, and like it's great. I really love
that has me curious. Like when you go to the shop in between rounds and you're seeing the discounted, quote unquote discounted anyway, planet options that are like $3, you know, buy it and use it now, but they're not necessarily that 2-pair strategy you were going with. Do you ignore those, or do you still just grab those anyway, depending on how much money you have?
I will grab them. Yeah, depending on how much money I'll have, I'll grab them regardless, and then I'll sell them if I don't end up using them. Yeah. But like if I grab it and it's like something that I've used like the second most, and you can see, you can pull up in your run info like how many times you've played each hand. And like
I didn't know
on
that.
Switch, on Switch, if you hit minus, it pulls that up and you get like a grid, and it even actually like nicely shows you like a breakdown. If you don't know what the hands are, you can like kind of reference, this is what a hands are, and number, cards in ranked order, which actually kind of explains what ranked actually means. So I wish I would have read that before I upgraded that ace.
But like it's so fun because every time I play, I basically am agnostic for the first 3 like blinds where I don't have any strategy other than just getting the points.
Do you skip any of them? Do you guys skip any of them? I skip a lot of them.
I've been getting to the point where like I will skip it based on the tag, which is a separate bonus. Because there's a one of the skips that I almost always do is like every like base like thing is free in the shop
every time. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, and like even if I get a bunch of garbage from it, I'm like, well, it was free.
Or you can discard it if you're like, okay,
100%.
Just nothing I needed.
Yeah,
shoot.
But like showing the run info, it also shows it in order of the highest scoring to the lowest scoring. It shows you how many chips and multipliers each one gets, but like it also is arranged by like high card is at any hand, so that's the lowest one. But I've seen people online who are like, yeah, I had a deck that was built around high card and like won with it. Like I love that you have the ability to turn
another cool
anything into a winning strategy.
That's
incredible. I think another cool thing or like kind of twist too is that you don't like, you can play up to 5 cards in a hand, but you don't have to play all 5 cards. Like you can play so a lot of times, like I'll be like, okay, you know what? I want to hang on to all these cards other than these 4 that I want to play for this 2-pair. But a lot of times I'm like, okay, I want to play this 2-pair, but I also want to discard this 5 that I don't need. So I'm just going to add it to my hand. The first couple times I played, I assumed that every card you played got like tallied to the points, but it's like only if it's part of the
if you have the splash joker.
See, because there's also a joker for like, I had a joker in one of my runs where it was like, any flush or straight can be played with 4 cards.
Yep.
And I was like, this is amazing. Like, how many times are you like, I just need that 1-7, or I just need one more club.
Or the joker that allows you to skip a number in a straight.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
There's like that's the thing is like I don't want to like spoil. We should put spoiler tags in this game.
For me, that's not super spoilery. I don't want to speak for Randall, but I'm comfortable with at least sharing some jokers. I've probably played, for what it's worth, I've probably played 10 to 15 runs max. I would say closer to 10. Maybe 10 or 12. What about you, Randall?
God, I don't know. Like I just say, when I first bought this game, I think John had a similar experience. I just played it for like 3 hours in a row. Yeah, it was just like immediate, like the hooks were in deep, and I'm like, I have to turn this off to sleep to go to work the next day. Sort of feel.
Okay, it didn't grab me quite in the same. But how much have you played, John?
I was 20 hours at the beginning of today. I've not.
Oh
checked.
my,
that's incredible.
Good Lord! But John is the most hardcore gamer out of all of us. I was just thinking about that earlier, like without question.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I play the most games, like as far as like number of games, but
yeah,
John
and the
is,
widest
like,
variety, I think, of us.
Yeah.
But you play a huge variety of games too, though.
Yeah, but I will pick a game and then I will play it to death.
But you do that with a shit ton of games. So I don't know how you find the time, but anyways, yeah, I have like, it's got the hooks in me, but like you had said in our Discord, like, oh man, this has got like Into the Breach depth where like for me, it like, I don't think it has that kind of depth where, and I only say that it does have that kind of like legs staying power in the sense like I could see myself playing this for a long time and like it's pretty simple to pick back up. It wouldn't be like Randall talked about Slay the Spire recently and like I was kind of like, man, I want to check out that new character, but I was like, man, number one, it's been a long time since I even played Slay the Spire, let alone ready to learn a new character.
Yeah, there's an on-ramp.
So I'm just kind of like, where this is like, now that I kind of know the ropes, I feel like even if I took a long time off this game, I could jump right back in and be like, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Agreed.
But I feel like with like Into the Breach, like I feel like truly like every squad is almost like its own video game in and of itself. Like they could have released Into the Breach with one squad, and to me that would have been a legitimate game. And like so like there's so much variety where like I feel like obviously there's a ton of variety to like these jokers and the different things, but it's like to me it's not like enough variety to where like, oh man, I can like totally have I guess you are having a totally different experience. It is leaning into like the whatever cards or buffs you're getting, like kind of like Slay the Spire, but to me it's just a different kind of depth, I guess, where like Into the Breach I'm getting like more satisfaction from like the game like design and puzzliness of all the different mech combos and like mechanics.
Like
this one feels a little less puzzly to me. It's just like more about the gambling and luck and stuff like that of it, more so than because Into the Breach is just like pure puzzle, where this is like a lot of gambling and luck.
But this is a puzzle too.
Into the mix. It is, but there's a lot of gambling and luck involved where there's virtually none of that in Into the Breach. Like you know exactly what the enemies are gonna do. You know what's coming. This is like you're taking chances always and rolling the dice.
Optimal, like your layout from the final turn that you did in the previous turn is not going to be in the optimal place. So like there's a randomness there too.
There is.
But I think for me, like with the randomness in Balatro, is that it's just math. And that is super easy for me.
Sure.
And
makes sense.
Like, you are the accountant. You're the accountant here.
So like this being, and it is really just reducing it down to probability problems. Yeah. And all of the skill and like your skill is reducing the randomness. Because there is a set randomness in
that's a great way to put it, actually.
Like the first three blinds or whatever. That's the only time that there's actual like hard randomness that like it is just up to like the cards, and they do a really good job of like balancing the blind amounts that you need to, the scores that you need to get, so that you can't get it.
When I lose, I like always barely lose, you know, so it's like it's not like I'm like, oh man, I didn't even have a chance to win that one, you know.
Right. And like that has only happened to me in like the case where like the second to last blind is it's like, oh, all of your clubs are debuffed, and I was like, cool, that is what I built my deck around. So I basically just can't attack, and it's like
some of those boss battle debuffs are brutal. Like, do you guys know? Because there's one of the jokers that I think it's a joker, maybe it's a tarot card that says like you can. I think it's because it looks like a credit card and it says you can go up to minus $20. So do you like lose a run if you go?
Nope.
To minus 20 normally without that thing?
Nope. You just
what does that card do then?
You can it's a credit card. You can buy things now.
Oh.
You can go
and
into
you
debt.
just won't
Wow.
you just won't get additional money.
Because I had kind of been veering away from that one because I thought it was just like, oh, that's like a safety valve. Because I did have a point where I was going into the negative because one of the boss debuffs was like every time you play a card, lose $1 or something like that. So then I was thinking that there was maybe a mechanic like, oh, if you get to negative 20, it's game over.
No, I bought
like
all
that.
the boosters, all the planet shit with that card.
Yep.
I went nuts.
I'll definitely.
Let me just make myself
never used,
uber powerful right now.
I've never used that one because I was just like, I don't know if this one doesn't seem like it would benefit me, and I bought something else instead. So I'll definitely be picking that up in a future run for sure.
The run that was like my heartbreak run, but like before I got on the call tonight, was one where I had a Joker that would double the effects of the Joker to its right.
Ooh.
And you can reorganize your hand at any time. And I also had a Joker that at the beginning of every blind, it would give you a tarot card. So before I started a blind, I would just move that Joker that would double it. I would start every single blind with two tarot cards. And then I would
Is a blind like each of the three? Like each one of those is a blind?
Yeah.
That's
fantastic.
Oh my God.
I was getting 6 tarot cards at least from every ante. It was unbelievable. It was incredible. I was building the best spade deck possible. And like
that's so filthy.
It was so good. But like by the end, like I just like had over leveraged myself and I had put everything into royal what was it? It was straight flushes. Like the most like specific thing, and
those are tough.
But like I had built so much of my deck. Like my deck was pretty much just spades, but I wasn't getting them in the right order. Like, it was.
And then you keep like trying to discard. That's another thing too. Like there's a bunch of like different, like, so kind of like, you know, to compare it to Into the Breach, just because we're, you know, instead of squads, you have like a bunch of different decks that you can pick from, which are, to me, much more subtle tweaks where, like, you know, in Into the Breach, you're getting like a full blown kind of new mechanic that they're kind of leaning into. This is kind of like, I guess, kind of the same though, but like, you know, they're leaning like, well, the first deck is like you get one extra discard, and then the second one is you get to play one extra hand. And then the next one I think is like one extra Joker or something like that. I forget what order you start getting them in, but it seems like there's quite a few different decks. I've already unlocked, I think 5 or 6
I'm up to black
now. But
deck, I think
there are.
I don't know if I've unlocked that one yet. I've got
regular
green or yellow.
Or like 5 regular decks that I think you just unlock throughout the course of play. And then there's 5 additional decks that you unlock from beating the game with any of those 5 decks.
Okay.
Nice.
And like, and
then it looks like there's like some kind of difficulty modifier, like, because it looks like it's on like normal mode or something by default. And then you, at least for me, I can't tweak it until I'm assuming you beat a run or something.
First one I beat was on the blue deck, which is the additional hand. I have not beaten it with any of the other decks yet. So like I
can't decide which one I like better, the additional hand or the additional discard. I keep waffling between.
Dude,
I know the yellow one's like you start with 50 gold. I haven't tried that
10
one yet,
gold.
I don't think. 10, okay. Yeah, 50. Yeah, okay.
50 would be so much.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing a lot with the green deck, which gives you no interest, but it gives you additional money for every
How does the interest work?
Yeah,
every
I haven't quite figured that out either.
Every $5 that you hold in your hand at the end of the round, you get interest on.
Yo.
Okay. I noticed, like, because I was like, I only noticed it triggering when I seem to have more money, but I couldn't figure out what was, you know, why or what was
I always
happening.
earn and burn every time I get to a shop.
I know I'm almost down to 0 every time, except like I said, I thought maybe there was like some kind of threshold of -20, and after that one boss battle where I went way down in the negative, I was like, shit, I don't want to risk that, so I was kind of veering away from buying everything. But now I'll definitely be back in that mode, and I'll definitely be buying that credit card.
Yeah, the ones that I really like are the ones that get the Jokers that get more powerful the more hands you play of a certain like parameter. So the one that I won was with a 2-pair, which was there was a Joker that was like a pair of pants, and every 2-pair you played, it would get more, either additional chips or additional. I think it was additional chips.
Nice.
But like that meant that I never skipped or blind, because I was like, no, I'm going to play the lowest value and I'm going to grind out the value of 2 pair.
Absolutely.
It just turns the game into something completely different every time. That's the thing I love about it. And that's why I think it's like infinitely replayable, is that like you get different it's like the best parts of a deck building game, which is like you have to change your strategy on the fly based on what power-ups you get.
Yeah.
It inherently understands why roguelikes are good and how you can get into these silly scenarios where you can start breaking the mechanics and how good that feels.
Anytime a roguelike just leans into full silly, I'm like, this is it.
Awesome.
This is what the genre should be.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the fact that you could theoretically have a card where you have like, 5 of a kind or more.
Yes.
I was going to say or more. I was going to say no, but you can probably have a joker that lets you play 6 cards in a hand or something like that. I could be wrong. Maybe that exists.
Yeah, I've not gotten to any 6 hands yet, and I don't know if there will.
Yeah, maybe there
based
won't
on
be,
like the planets and how they're
probabilities and stuff like that. Because then you could have 2 3 of a kinds. Yeah, 2 pairs of 3 of a kind. Yeah,
I've had some ridiculously large hands though.
Yeah,
where it's just like this is absurd.
You got like 12 cards. It's like add 3 to your next round, and then add 1 with this tarot card and. Yeah, I think that's actually one of the decks, too, is add 1 extra card per hand. I could be mistaken. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, actually.
I love how many different parameters like were anticipated for in this game, where it's like, okay, but what if you could do a, flush full house or a flush house? Where that was where I had changed everything basically to spades, and then I could play 3 spades and then 2 more spades, so it would be a 3 of a kind and a 2 of a kind, all in the same suit. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is the silliest hand I've ever seen.
Yeah. And just the way it like stacks the different multipliers and stuff like that.
It
feels so good.
Feels great when numbers go up.
It does.
Yeah, and speaking of feeling
the
great,
flame effect. I like the flame effect.
I was just gonna say, like, speaking of like feeling great, it's worth pointing out like the tactile and visual and audio feedback. Just even when like the cards get flipped and dealt, and the points rack up and the little screen shake.
Multipliers good set on fire once they get to a certain point.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot of good. Like it kind of feels like you're in a casino a little bit. Like the gambling lights are going off and the But they went a nice approach with like the kind of more mellow music, and it's a nice, like, it almost has a little bit of Donkey Kong Country water level vibes to the music.
Super chill.
Ooh, especially when you pull out either a tarot or like spectral deck and the music like warps, or like when you lose and like it like slows down and then it's like portmanteaus back up. Oh.
And I love that you can tweak the game speed. I already feel like I got it. I've got the game down enough where I'm like, all right, I'm going to bump it up to speed 2. That feels like enough for me. I might try to see what 3 is to see if it's like, because there's still a few things where I'm like, that takes a little long to get through that. But like, I wouldn't want it to go much faster, because then it just feels like I'm like,
you can't even see
I'm literally just going through the motions at a point. I want to like enjoy the experience a little bit too.
I love there's a re-trigger effect that happens on certain jokers and cards, and if you get to the point where, like when I was having that thing where it doubled every single card, like it has a really nice acceleration when it's doing the point totals too. So like if you have something that's absurdly long, it starts out kind of normal speed, and then by the end it's just like all the cards are moving so fast. It's like, all right, we get it. They're big numbers.
Nice. There's been a few times where I was like, I wish you could like hold down a button and speed this up. So it's good to know that it kind of default does that for some of the longer.
That is good to know.
Yeah. And man, I don't know if you guys have checked the ante list of like, it shows, you can pull up on it like how much different antes are you have to clear, what the point totals are in order to get it. And like 8 is when you beat a run. But it goes beyond that, and it shows the point totals you need, and it goes into scientific notation. And,
just infinitely loop in the sense, Lord. Like, how some of those old, like, or I was gonna say old school, but like I feel like Nuclear Throne roguelikes where it's just like
exponentially more each turn, and I'm like, I cannot wait to get to that point.
Oh my God. And I know you will too. Yeah. Oh man.
And ante is around, right? That's another thing that I wasn't even necessarily.
Yeah, I've heard the some of the terminology. Same. Yeah. Yeah, some of the terminology they like kind of like loosely use it, or there's like sometimes it just seems like there's maybe two terms that kind of mean the same thing in some cases where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's like round, run, hand, ante, blind, and
like even at the bottom it'll say like what round you're in and then what ante you're in. I think both are on the bottom and they're different numbers sometimes. I'm like, I don't get this. But I think it just seems like I have to get through all these waves, and those boss battles are always pretty dang tough.
Goddamn cards facing down. What am I supposed to do with this?
Dude.
Just picking stuff.
That's
what
the
am
worst.
I doing here?
That's the worst one. I usually just discard 5 cards and just hope they're not good ones.
So there is a voucher which allows you to re-roll boss blinds.
Oh,
so if you get to the point where you're like, where you look at it and it shows you what it is at the beginning of each ante. And like that's another good investment to like have, especially when you've built your deck for a hyper specific thing, and like you can see to like, oh God,
like I'm gonna get screwed on that one. Yeah, it's man, it's a cool game. I'm definitely glad that you snagged it and kind of just like, I don't know, it's been a while since I've just been like, let's grab this game right as it launched and get in on it during the excitement.
Right.
I know we were talking about it before we jumped on recording. Like the last time we all played a game at the same time was Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I know I obviously wasn't the hugest fan of that game. So like I was like, man, I haven't like bought a game day one and just kind of jumped in while the excitement's still in the air, about this game, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Excitement's very much in the air. I'm having a great time with this game. I love that I've got it on Switch too.
I was just gonna say, are you playing on Switch as well, Randall? Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't know because you play on Xbox a lot these days. I
do.
So I wasn't sure if you were leaning that way.
Xbox is that Xbox gets turned on practically every day. But I'm like, I even looked up like Googled like Switch Balatro performance and like, oh okay, looks like generally it's pretty good. All right, that's got to be the platform.
It's
for this.
67 megabytes. This is
nuts.
Absurd how good this game is for
2024.
So small.
67 megabytes for modern platforms is just bonkers. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like the efficiency of that. And granted, it's all, pixel art, but
one
it looks
song.
super
It's
cool.
there's like
there's one song with a few different variations and some sound effects. Like,
but it doesn't need anything else. It hit every single beat. Like there's no fat on this game at all.
There is not. No.
Yeah, that's another great point. Yeah, it's just here's what you got, and again, get right into it after that first run of teaching you the ropes, and especially if you do kind of know. I feel like you're biting off a lot, Randall, coming into this like not knowing a ton about poker and having to take all that in along with the twist that this game is thrown in.
I like to put myself in those sort of positions though, like what's uncomfortable. Yeah. It's not like I was avoiding it. It's just like, I'm not a big gambler. I know like blackjack and other card games a lot better than I know something like poker. And I don't know, maybe I was just a little counterculture because like poker was such a big deal for something. Like, I'm not going to like that. Look at everybody's watching this on ESPN2 all the time. Like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like, so I just never really bothered to get too into any of that. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't mind. And I knew it was a roguelike. And I'm like, oh, yep. And then John just started going bonkers about it in the Discord. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, this one's too ripe for the picking. It seems like up all of our alleys enough to...
And I love deck builders. I love card-based
I think
games.
It uses the language of both like video games and like poker pretty well. Like I think that it does a really good job of making it like well communicated and like immediate. So you don't necessarily need that background and you can just jump into it.
Agreed. And there's almost an effect of like how I do with sports games where like I didn't go into the first 2K knowing every basketball player, but best believe I learned them because I played that game. It's the same sort of thing that's now happening here with poker, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's great.
And I really love the pacing of the game too. Like the only thing I'll say is that I do wish there was like a quicker way to navigate the shop sometimes. Like I sometimes feel like, okay, I'm like, it kind of stalls the progress when I just want to keep ripping through the run, when I'm just like, okay, what tarot card do I want to pick out of these 5? What planet card do I want to pick out of these 3? It can just be like a lot to pick
just
from.
Just be a freak like me and memorize it all.
See, I don't think I'll ever get to that point.
The Jokers are really distinct, though. The imagery on them, like, I've
they're
come
really
to learn
cool.
them.
Yeah, the artwork's awesome.
Yeah,
I've come to learn
the
some of my
design
favorites.
on this game is so
Really
good.
great.
I've definitely come to learn some of my favorites. I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I learn them all to that level, but I'm starting to get to where, like, okay, I know Earth. Well, I don't know this one by heart, but like, I'm, Venus or Pluto's the, what's it called? Highest card. Upgrade,
Uranus is 2 pair.
Earth is Earth is the full house one.
Pluto's
I forget
1.
which one, but I'm starting to learn some of those. Yeah.
Jupiter's flush.
So maybe I'll get
Saturn there. Is Saturn straight? Oh, I should know this. I shouldn't know this. I shouldn't know this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
That's great. That's awesome.
John's got the Balatro encyclopedia. Right?
Oh yeah,
I love that Wheel of Fortune is put a foil holograph polychrome or on your Jokers, but it's a 1 in 4 chance.
Oh yeah, I've got that one too. Who doesn't love a foil card in any?
Oh my god! Yes, all of the additional parameters, like the seals and what they do, the foil cards, the multipliers, everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
that you can add if you get the right context. You can add them to certain cards that you already like. It's roguelikes. It's good.
It's great.
Yeah, and again, just worth mentioning, like playing. I think all of us are playing with gamepad controls, whether we're playing like handheld or whatever. It plays really, snappy. Really great. Yep. Like a lot of times when you see these deck building, like moving cards kind of around on a table, like my brain thinks, oh, that would feel great with a mouse. But I almost feel like it would be potentially a little more tedious, like clicking on every individual thing, just moving your hand around all the time. Like, yeah, you got to tap the D-pad a bunch left and right, but you have a couple options. You can sort the cards, whether by suit or by rank. That was my one thing. Like at first I was wishing, like, because if you don't have a card selected, if you press down, it won't actually go to that menu unless you're closer to the middle of your hand, because that option's like right in the middle. But again, like once you default, like, okay, this is the way I like my cards. It's not like I'm switching between the two very often, so
unless you're in one of those boss blinds where the cards are some of them are face down, and then the ranking by different parameters is super helpful.
Yeah, because I just noticed that
on my last run.
Well, they were face down. I'm like, oh wait,
but in order,
the way they're coming
like,
in. Yeah, it's like interesting.
I actually got really lucky. I played one where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna. These ones look like they're in that range. I was like, maybe I'll get a straight, or maybe I'll get maybe
at least a pair.
Maybe I'll get nothing.
I ended up getting a full house. I had all 3 of them were 3s, and then I had a pair that I played along with it, and I was like, heck yeah, here we go.
Yeah, it feels great, dude.
Yeah, it adds that extra layer of gambling. You're not necessarily gambling on the chips that you have at stake.
It's just
you're more
probability.
Like,
I love math problems.
Yeah.
This is why this game does it for me.
Oh yeah. Got to push your buttons, all of your buttons.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is very much a John game.
Oh yeah,
sure. But it sounds like it's an all of us game.
Yeah.
For the most part. Again, I know I'm always like going to throw a nitpick or two here and there, but like I'm definitely pretty hooked on this game, and like it's been my go-to since I fired it up. I don't think I've played anything since I first fired this up. I haven't even played a Lonely Mountains daily. So
I had to do a Lonely Mountains downhill because I had finished a heartbreak of a run, and I was like, I just need to feel good about.
Gotta cleanse the palate. Gotta cleanse the palate. I will say I did do a daily the other day before I picked this game up, and I was like, Lonely Mountains Downhill is my number 1 game of all time. It's the best game ever made, and for me, my favorite.
Balatro might be coming there for that title
run.
For me.
Dang.
Which one?
Heck yeah.
Oh, this Balatro.
Oof.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Man, it's so good.
Heck yeah.
And it's such a match for portable in particular.
Yes. Really.
Pick up and play.
Like the only reason I'm gonna, because we're recording pretty late here, the only reason I am gonna play another run or two is because like grab my Switch and play another run while I'm laying in bed and have a podcast on or something. So perfect. I don't know. Anybody else have anything? I'm sure we'll probably end up talking about this one some more, along with some other stuff. It's rare that we do like a single game themed episode here, but anybody else have anything more to add? before we wrap things up here?
No, I gotta go play some more of this game.
Gotta unlock some more Jokers.
I do.
Yeah, Balatro is too damn good. It'll be brought up again, even in reference. I guarantee it'll be.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be definitely.
Dude, it's making me think about other games so much. It's such a good it's fertile ground to think about games as just a medium, which rules.
Yeah,
yes.
I even right away was thinking about I wonder how much this game, in a roundabout way, had any inspiration, because Vampire Survivors is very much like a game that's kind of based around just the thrill of gambling and what am I gonna get, and leaning into those buffs. And I wonder if it was somebody's just hey, let's just lean even harder into the gambling side of things and just make a poker game.
I know game developers who use subtext and they're cowards.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's nice to know there's some new game ideas that can still make our heart go aflutter.
New game ideas based on card
age old formula. How long has poker been around?
Some of the oldest game ideas. Shoot.
Yeah. So cool.
Dang.
So cool.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, I guess on that note, we can wrap things up there for this week. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com, or you can find us playing Balatro somewhere else, I guess. But we're pretty much everywhere else online. And otherwise, we will catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man. What's the first Balatro ripoff? Do we think someone's going to try to make blackjack or?
Yeah,
it's probably already on the eShop right now. Yeah,
roulette or something.
It's $2.99 and it's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. Other is I just feel like this game is complete. I don't want that was also a thing that I honestly felt about Into the Breach, but then they added fucking all the new squads in that, and I was like, God, how do they add more to this game? How did they do it?
Yeah. They literally doubled the scope of that game.
I know. I love when something's comes across that feels magical, where it's just you did it. You fucking did it.
You nailed your vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.